Let's see. I'm gonna do some vlogging here. It's been a while since I made a vlog, and by the time you see this, it's gonna, well, when I'm filming this, because this is obviously what it's about, well, I have two packages here. I might as well show you what's in the second one, but it's all about one of them, which, if you've clicked on this video, you'll probably know what it is. It is release date today of Red Dead Redemption 2, which some people will have waited for about 8 years. I only played the first game last year, about 1 year ago, maybe a little bit more, well, something like that. And I also feel like I've been waiting for a while, because it was supposed to have come out about a year ago. Then it was pushed forward a couple times. But it is October 26th today, and I've just received the game in the mail. And I cannot wait to open it up, install it, and start playing. It's going to be so much fun, and I am going to sort of vlog my way through it. So by the time you see this, I mean, it's a big game. Apparently I saw something about there being 2 discs, which I don't know if that's true, but it's a big game. I think more than 100 gigabytes. Compare that to like Grand Theft Auto 5, which I haven't had that on my PlayStation for a while now, but I think that was like, what, 60, 70 gigs? I don't know, but this is a huge game. So by the time you see this, it's not gonna be new anymore, because, well, I'm not sure if I'm gonna vlog all the way through. I mean, until I actually complete the game. I might upload this sooner. It really depends on how I feel. I might wrap it up halfway through the game if I feel like I've talked about it enough. I don't know. I'm sure I will come back and just offer a few more thoughts once I've actually finished it. But I think this is going to be a pretty long video, because there's going to be a lot of things to talk about with this game, and if you don't mind. Okay, it's time to unbox it. It is absolutely miserable outside now, by the way. It's a bit of a cliche, but especially this year, I feel like it's appropriate to say that this summer, it was a long summer. It just ended, and now it's almost Christmas. Well, 2 months away, but that's nothing. And it's getting cold. It's freezing outside. I was just working out, and I have my sweatpants or whatever, and I only have one hoodie and a t-shirt. So I really should be. It's about time now to put on some more clothes. Which is weird, because it was just summer. I was wearing a t-shirt and I was sweating, and now I am considering putting on my jacket when I'm going grocery shopping in an hour or so. Which brings me to the installing. I'm gonna have to install the game, then go do some stuff. One of those things. I'm gonna have to go grocery shopping today, because I think it's gonna take a while for the game to install with such a big game. But yeah, let's just have a look here at my very glamorous kitchen table, and let's open this up. There it is. Ah, this is so cool. Let's have a look immediately. Let's see. So, I'm not sure if there are 2 discs or not, but I guess we'll find out. Yeah, there are. Data disc. Play disc. Oh, okay. So you install this and then you put that into play, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna have to... Well, I'm just gonna eat first, and then I'm gonna install it. So... yeah, it's gonna take a while. It says 2 hours. It just said 5 hours. I don't think it's gonna take that long. Now it says 2. Yeah, I guess about 2 hours. I don't know if it's 41 plus 89 gigabytes in total, or if it's just 89. I guess we'll find out. yeah, so this is gonna do its thing. What else have I been doing today? I'm listening to Julia Holter. Her new album came out today called Aviary, which is not an instant like whatever. When I listen to it, she's released a couple singles before, which I listened to, and they haven't been my favorite either. It's more sort of ambient, almost more classical sounding compared to her other ones, which her previous two I liked quite a bit. Loud City Song and Have You in My Wilderness. This one's gonna take a little bit longer to grow on me, I think. Also listened to Eric Idle. He was on Mark Maron's podcast, so listened to that while I was working out. And a few days ago he released a podcast that he recorded a while ago with John Cleese, so it's been a Monty Python week this week on the Mark Maron podcast, which is great. Me being a big fan of Monty Python, and he talked about wanting to get Michael Palin on the podcast as well, which would be fantastic if he could get him. Yeah, the Eric Idle podcast was okay, but the John Cleese one was one of the best I think that Mark Maron has done. That's one of those interviews that you want to go back to and listen to again, because it's so much fun stuff. And John Cleese is always such a pleasure to listen to, which I think the reason for that is because he enjoys talking, which you know, when you're a fan of somebody, and I realize I'm talking about a bunch of random stuff, but I think that's okay. But I think when you're a fan of somebody, you notice who you're the biggest fan of based on how much you know about that person. Like when I've listened to so many John Cleese interviews, and I never really get tired of them. And every time he's about to say something, well, not every time, but you know, sometimes when he's about to tell a story, I'm like, yeah, I know what he's gonna say. He's gonna talk about his mother's depression and etc. Anyway, but I think the reason why John Cleese is always so much fun to listen to, as I was about to say, is because he enjoys, which is one of those things that I've heard him say, he enjoys talking to people. He enjoys answering questions, especially if they're rude questions. Apparently, that's much more fun, he thinks. Anyway, I'm just sitting here waiting. I'm not gonna sit here for 2 hours waiting, obviously. I just thought that I would talk about a few other things. Oh, and I forgot to show this one. The other one that I got today, like I mentioned, Mandy. Now this I'm looking forward to watching. I haven't seen Nicolas Cage in anything in some time, because I haven't really heard any good things about any of his movies in a long time. But this one I've heard really good things about, and it finally came in the mail. And I cannot wait. I'm definitely gonna have to watch this over the weekend anyway. Yeah, I'll try to find time. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Now shower, grocery shopping, and then we'll come back to Red Dead Redemption. We're about to start. We are about to start playing. It's one of those experiences that it's gonna take. One of those games. It's such a huge world, I've come to understand. Obviously it is. I mean, what they did 8 years ago with the first one, obviously time goes pretty quickly in the gaming world. So in 8 years a lot of things have happened, and it's going to be even bigger and even more things to do. So it's a daunting thing to get into. Like those first couple of hours is about, for me it's going to be about getting the hang of the gameplay and the world, and all the different objectives and the characters, locations, all that stuff. But once you've gotten past that, I'm gonna start enjoying it more. And it's not that I'm not looking forward to seeing the first few images, the first few, to see how the game starts. That's really fun. But there is a matter of having to get past that first threshold, like getting into the game, which is not. I'm not saying it's not enjoyable, but it's also a little bit of work, which I don't mind. But it's once you get past that, that's when you start to really enjoy it, I think. So I just need to get into the game, and once I've done that, I guess I'll come back and talk about my first impressions. Holy shit. Oh no. I think that was supposed to happen. I mean, the graphics in this game, the world building, it's so immersive, it's incredible. In this otherwise very perfect game, I've seen a bug here, unless she's having some serious levitation skills. I've been playing for a couple days now. I haven't been talking too much about it, but I've just been so lost in this world. I mean, when traveling from place to place is a joy. Oh, there we go. Then you know it's a good game. I mean, that was the case with the first one too, in a way. But with this game, I mean, the world is so alive and bustling and thriving and complex, deep, that something is always happening, whether a deer is running by or the sunset is coming in, or whatever, or then looking at the night sky, or the varying sounds of the horse's hooves, depending on what ground you're on or whatever. I'm just having so much fun just getting lost in this world, and I don't even feel like I need to do missions all the time. It's just fun to be here in this world. It's so great. Arthur just standing here watching this doctor saw a man's arm off. A man I just saved took him to the doctor. Now this is happening. I mean, it's a bit weird if you think about it, for Arthur to be still standing here looking at this. If you want to be realistic, I mean, I like to be as realistic as I can with these games, but I was too curious to see what happened to walk out. So much dialogue in this game that you're gonna miss if you don't stick around, so I like to do that. So this is one of those things where I really want to stick around here and literally just walk around and talk to people and explore places for an hour or something. I mean, I'm gonna go back here and do that, but this was just, I just ended up here. I was gonna do something else, and I ran into this stranger, I took him to the doctor, then this happened, and now I'm here. It's too much fun, this game, but I have something else to do, so I'm gonna come back here. But this is just, I mean, look at this town and the soundscape. Anyway, I'm just gushing at this point, but it's hard not to. So now I was gonna exit the city, and I ran into this stranger who wanted to fight me, and so I did. And then a little window up there, a little text came up which said, you might want to dispose of the body or hide the body unless you want to attract attention. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna drop him in the water, see if that is a good idea. It's so morbid, it's so brutal. Look at that, just floating around. Oh man. I mean, oh man. This game, I'm telling you, this might be the best game I've ever played, seriously. As much as I like games by Naughty Dog,
this is the first time I've truly felt part of a world in an open world game. Like the first time I've truly felt like this is an actual world and that I wanna spend time here, not just do missions. Wait, what was that? Did something just eat the body? I think so. So I guess I just ran into some friendly fellows here. Up to no harm, I'm sure. Oh, that went really well. That is a nice visual though. So I'm glad I stopped here. So I'm sitting here watching some bonus features for City of the Living Dead, the new limited edition, and I just thought I've played a lot of Red Dead Redemption. I've taken a break yesterday and today. Well, I played some yesterday. It's Wednesday today, but I've not played any today. I might not play today because I don't really want it to be over. I played a lot on Sunday and Monday, more than I'm gonna admit. And I've never really felt that before. I mean, I've played games over the past couple of years. Well, when I grew up or when I was in my teens, I was, playing all these MMORPG games. Well, two of them, MMORPG games, the online multiplayer games. Anyway, well, the online game. And I was spending a lot of time doing that, but I don't know if I guess I probably did play all day sometimes, but with the possible exception of that, I don't believe I've ever been as continuously focused on one game for that many hours in a row without wanting to stop in the slightest. But with this game, man, it is just the most immersive gaming experience I've had, or one of them anyway. And I just couldn't stop playing. But I don't really want it to be over. I want to get the most out of it. So when I did feel like, okay, after a while, yesterday, I played for a couple hours, and I did notice that my attention sort of started to drop a little bit, and I didn't want that. I don't want to waste time after having waited so long. Well, they haven't released a game in 5 years, so I feel like you should really try to get the most out of it. So I'm sort of not wanting it to end, although I think I've played more than half of the main story. I must have. Well, I mean, when you go to the save option, you save game, I'm at 43%, which is obviously less than half, but I don't know how much of the 100% is side missions, like stranger missions, other stuff. So let's say you only did the main missions and then you reach the end. I don't know how much percentage would show up, if you know what I mean. So just because it says 42%, I think I'm still more than halfway through the main story. But I intend to get pretty close to 100%. There's not, I mean, man, there's not a lot of stuff that I'm not loving. Like with most games, man, there are some parts that you just want to get through. You throw the controller away, or you keep dying and you have to stop and come back later with, your attention charged or whatever. Or some parts just kind of bums you out because I don't know, they just don't entirely work. And when a game has something that feels out of bounds, so to speak, maybe there are things placed in just because there needs to be stuff, but you can't interact with them, or some parts don't feel real, which with a game like this is not a problem, because it feels like this world is going on without you. It doesn't feel like it's just there for you. It feels like I'm there in the world and this is gonna go on even when after I turn off the game, this stuff is still going on. You get that impression. And so with an immersive experience like that, there's nothing in the game that I haven't fully and thoroughly enjoyed. Even, I mean, the stranger missions in Red Dead Redemption 1 are not always fun, for me anyway. Some of them are like, oh, for fuck's sake, well, I guess I'll do this, and then there's a sense of completion afterwards. It's mainly the story, the storytelling, the arc of that in the first game that I love so much. There's a lot of the gameplay that I don't love, but with this, that's just not the case. There's nothing which is not just man. So anyway, so even the stranger missions, and even when like I show you the Ku Klux Klan before, that's not that was just like a blip on the radar. You get these gray blips, which is like chance encounters or whatever they're called, and you never know what you're gonna run into. And I tend to wanna stop by even small things like that. I usually stop and check what it is, unless I'm on my way to do something I'm excited to do. I might not always stop. But the fact that even small little encounters like that can be so interesting and surprising, and you never really know what you're gonna get, they've really perfected that. I've never, yeah, it's just, man. And I'm speaking more from emotion than anything else, because I'm not a game reviewer. But I do feel like I have some things to say about this game, because it's just wonderful. And take, I mean, all the man, it's I don't know how you pull something like this off. Like how many people do you have working on this? How long does it take to create these things? How do you plan it out? How do you get everything in the right place? The movements of characters and the dialogue and respond. I mean, it's just so impressive to me. It's just infinitely more impressive than a great movie, because you can cannot tell how you make a movie. But with a game, it's so abstract for me. I have no idea how it's done, and somehow that makes it well, I don't know. But I'm just rambling. But I just please whatever, just allow me to do that. There's one part in the game pretty early on. You've rescued a character called Sean, and when you come home from that, Dutch tells you that, okay, we're gonna party now. And that's I did that for like half an hour. We sat around the campfire. They were singing. You can say some things to people. You can focus on people and say some dialogue. Usually pretty awkward, clumsy, quickly written dialogue in just a couple of lines. But still, you can say things to them. Sometimes people come up to you and talk to you, and you cannot turn around and respond. And with that party scene, everything was so real. It felt so real. The way the characters acted, they all had a lot of dialogue. So much activity going on around this camp. You could join in singing. Yeah, so it's so much more than just doing missions and getting the story forward. It's just the air or the ambiance of this incredibly detailed world that it's gonna bum me out when I'm done with this game. So I don't know. And that happened another time, by the way, when you had rescued John Marston, who's obviously the main character in the first game, which is really cool too, that he's part of the game, and then Dutch is part of the game. You know what's gonna happen, and I'm wondering what the conclusion of this game will somehow lead into the second game. Like, if the last events of the first one, if that's where the seed is for the second one, or sorry, if this is confusing. If the last few scenes of the second game is where the seed has been planted for the first game, for the events of the first game, I don't know if they're going to be connected, or if it's just if it's too many years in between, because it's about 11 years earlier, I think. So but still, knowing what's going to happen to them elevates it a little bit too. But you're still able to relate. I mean, I like Dutch, even though I know that how things will turn out. He's not an antagonist now. He doesn't feel like one. I mean, you kind of are because you're robbers and murderers. So of course you are the antagonist. But that's never really been a problem with sympathizing with bad people in movies and games. If the writing is there and the voice acting, I suppose, then I don't think that's a problem. Yeah, I'm jumping all over the place here, but oh, by the way, sometimes the exploring, pre-mission exploring, like I talked about Saint Denis, this city that I was filming. I brought someone to the doctor. Part of well, this has happened before with open world games, where you go out on your own and explore, and then when the mission part actually gets to that point, your character is introduced to this place, but you as a player has already been there. So in a way it feels wrong to know what's coming. In a way, because we're in Saint Denis now, so I almost kind of wish that I'd never gone to Saint Denis, because the introduction of this city, this modern, wonderful, well, they don't like it, the characters don't like it. I can understand that, but it looks amazing. The introduction of that would have been much more effective if I had never been there before. So that's also a slight issue sometimes with I don't know, but doing what order you should do things in. Should you explore more on your own, or should you not? Anyway, because I think it's more effective if the story introduces you to things rather than you discovering them on your own. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can come up with more things to say, but right now I just needed to. I've been playing it for a long time now, and I've wanted to talk about it, but I've not really been sure exactly how to or what to say. But anyway, that's just some random, spontaneous thoughts about what I'm thinking, what I feel about the game. So now we're captured at this place, Guarma, which I don't even know if that exists in real life, but it's in the Caribbean. Hey, he beat up an old woman. I killed her. Anyway, I love this sequence in the Caribbean. A change of pace and beautiful animation. It reminds me of Uncharted, actually. This is the stuff I love more than shooting. Just stealthing, trying to take people out one by one, making your way closer, overhearing what they're talking about. You know, I love that stuff. Alright, I knew when we got here you kind of got a view of the place, a little bit at least, and you saw this kind of fortress by the beach, or this sort of secluded in at the top of this kind of mountainous whatever, and I knew that some shit was gonna go down there eventually, and this is it, and this is pretty cool. And this weapon is not the best. Dutch always gets annoyed with me. I'm like, well, I'm just doing what the game tells me to do. But okay.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't like shootout scenes. I mean, it's just that kind of all guns blazing approach that I try to avoid if I can, if I had the choice, which you can in Naughty Dog's games. You can have that choice sometimes, and I always choose to remain quiet as long as I can. Anyway, so I've been thinking about a few things. I mean, you inevitably compare this to the first game as you play it. It takes a while to get the hang of a few. Well, not to get the hang of, but to make up your mind on a few things, because it's such a long game. You need to spend a long time in the world. But I mean, the first game, it was kind of, for me. I'm sorry about the lighting. It's dark, but you don't really need to see my face. The first game, it was kind of dull for a while, I thought, and then you came to Mexico, and then you went up north to Blackwater, and the story came together in such a nice way that it ended up being this phenomenal story that you were taken a part of. This one hasn't been that. I mean, even though I've it's not ended yet. I've played it for a while. I mean, I'm definitely further than halfway, much further, I think, in the story. I don't. But although in the first one that was the case too, I was like, I have to be nearing the end soon, and then it just kept going. So I don't know how long it's gonna keep going. I'd like to play this for another I don't know, several hours, many hours. So I guess we'll see how much is left. But I am pretty far into the story. It's not, it's more of a sprawling kind of a story, a living, breathing world with this one. The story itself is maybe a bit less focused. It's more, yeah, I don't know, maybe more nuanced in a way. So I don't know. I like the characters a lot. I don't know if it's gonna end up being on par with the first one in terms of the story. I guess we'll see, but I kind of feel like it won't. Maybe it won't deliver on that emotion, that emotional attachment that you feel towards John in the first one, and then Jack, I guess, and the way the whole thing is told. I sort of have a hard feeling, or a hard time with thinking that it's gonna match that level of storytelling and kind of grace in the storytelling. But I guess we'll see. I'm still wondering if Arthur is gonna die or not. I'm guessing he probably will, maybe, but I don't know. So that's gonna be fun to see. Well, fun, but interesting to see how it pans out. Although, I don't know. I mean, you'd like to want to keep playing after the mission part is over, and with the first game, you kept playing as Jack. So I don't know if Arthur dies, then you would have to be another character, or simply the game is over. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends, so that it, to see how it connects with the first one in terms of the events, if it ties in like that. But yeah, now we are back to Saint Denis, the big city of the world, and there's still well, let me check the map actually. So I think there's still part of the map below Blackwater that has not been explored, but I don't know if that might have been Guarma. Let's check. I don't think it was. So now we're back to Saint Denis, and if I go down south, I mean, if we look at the map here, I mean, we haven't been to Blackwater yet because of the shit that went down before the game started. But if you go south here, I mean, it goes down quite a while, quite a distance. So I'm guessing this is part of the map as well, and that we're gonna go down there eventually. I mean, with all this talk of Blackwater, the stuff that went down and the money they have stashed there, and with the Pinkertons, they're gonna have to come back into the picture. I'm sure we're gonna go to Blackwater eventually, and then we're gonna continue down here. But beyond that, there's just there's actually quite a big part here in the north as well that I haven't explored.
So that's cool that even this many hours into the game, there's a lot, quite a bit of the map that I haven't seen yet. It seems. But yeah. So I love that part that we just played. It was just maybe a couple hours at Guarma, this Caribbean island, and now we're back to the real world. I love that change of pace, like I said. You're thrown out into someplace else and then you go back. It's just kind of this unusual storytelling in a way that I really like, because normally you don't go back. Like in this kind of a story, you want to keep pushing forward, but now we're gonna go back to where the shit went down, and yeah, that should be fun. Although, to be fair, shit has gone down several times. Like in Valentine, we robbed a bank, and then it was all this talk of, we shouldn't go back to Valentine. But I had already paid off my bounty, and I had been back, and I was just walking to the general store. Yeah, I'm gonna buy some salmon, please. So sometimes there's that clash between the story and your own. I think I mentioned that before, maybe. But with the story and your own gameplay outside of the story, which sometimes can be a bit funny. I remember with the first game, when the game ended, when you were playing Jack, and it was a couple of years later, there was a side mission that I had started in the beginning of the game with John, where somebody wanted me to pick flowers for them, and I guess I thought, well, fuck that, I'm not gonna pick flowers. That's not playing Red Dead Redemption. I'm gonna pick flowers. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Whatever I was thinking. And then I just kept playing the game, and then the game was over, and I had a few missions that I hadn't wrapped up. Well, a few stranger encounters. And one of them was the flowers thing, and so I figured, well, let's just do that. And here this man has been waiting for 2 years or whatever, and then some other guy comes back with flowers, and he acts like it's nothing weird at all. So that, I guess, the game, with an open world game, it can't always predict every single choice of the player, every single outcome. So sometimes it's gonna be a bit off. You just have to go with that. Sometimes I just make up my own story as to why. Like, oh, we were introduced to Saint Denis before, hours ago, and I had already been there, and Arthur acted as if he hadn't seen the place before. And I just kind of told myself, oh, let's just pretend that Arthur has been there, but he has a life outside of the gang, and he wants to keep a few things secret. Let's just go with that. Otherwise, it gets a bit off in a way. So I like doing that too, to make up your own mind about what's actually going on. There's so much fun things to do. I ran into these very PC term, but these freaks, a midget or a dwarf, and I mean, this is 1899, so they were kind of used for freak shows, I think. And then this person who has some kind of, I don't know what, but a strange appearance. And that happened up north, and then it was just a stranger encounter, but I love that part. It was such a bizarre thing. So I love when that stuff happens too, and I always try to wrap those things up before like a big mission. If I see like a big D on the map with Dutch wants to see me, I assume something is gonna happen. So I want to try to do everything else before that, just to wrap things up, and then we're gonna do come in with the big guns or whatever and do the big missions. But it's not. I'm really enjoying all of it. I don't know how this video is gonna turn out. It's just me rambling about how good the game is for well over an hour, I'm sure. Oh no. Okay, so I whistled for my horse. It's lost, obviously. So I stole this other horse, which was just placed there, so I figured, well, the game wants me to take it. Then I just heard some sounds from the sea, and I was gonna just very gracefully walk up to the edge of the cliff here and have a look, and I just fall down. Come on here. Or can you get over here, please? I'm whistling, you can't hear that. Oh, I'm whistling for my own horse. Oh shit. Alright, we're back at the camp here. See if anybody is still here, but it doesn't seem like it. But this is our job now, to round everyone up, because it was only a couple of us up in Guarma, or down in Guarma, whatever. So this should be fun, to search for everyone and round everybody up again. We are in a hot air balloon. This is kinda cool. And now we are shooting from a fucking hot air balloon. This is not bad. I gotta say, I'm laughing a lot playing this game. There's some really funny lines and great delivery. Oh, we're gonna shoot again. Okay, great. I think it's time to eat some food. I've made some food before and I had some. I think it's time to have some more. Seriously, this kind of game it's you just get lost in it. You wanna do... Oh fuck, the TV is turning off. Happens all the time. I have to... Okay. Yeah, you end up doing one thing that leads you to another, and then it leads you to something else, and then you end up not eating like all day. I'm just astounded by the level of the amount of dialogue, not just for the missions, but even back at camp, like after something has happened, whether it's good news or bad news, or maybe somebody has been rescued somewhere. People walk up to you back at camp, they walk up to you and talk to you about what has happened, and obviously there's a bunch of different people, they all have different things to say, and based on what's happened before between Arthur and that character, it adds more depth to their relationship and to your understanding of all those characters. So yeah, there's all that kind of stuff back at camp too. You sit down by the campfire, they're talking about something, you overhear, and then maybe you chime in with something. Once I was going out of camp to do something, and I overhear Bill and John and someone else talking about something. So I stop by, and then Bill started talking to me after a while. So obviously, if I would have left and just ignored their conversation, that part would have been lost. But because I went up to them, Bill, that character, noticed that Arthur was in the vicinity, and he kind of turned to him and just said something to him. Not in a cutscene or a cinematic, but in the gameplay. So just a crazy level of detail. So I'm glad that they really worked on all those things. I'm not sure exactly what it was they needed more time with, because they did postpone the game a couple times. But I could imagine that it might have been something like that kind of detail. Although it could have been more missions, of course. I don't know. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And the game is starting to change now too. Before it was mainly a kind of fun game, where the characters, they were not maybe fully developed yet. You were kind of figuring out who they were.
now that you know who they are, their relationships with each other, they start to change. Some of them for the better, some of them start to drift apart, like Dutch is starting to act weird. Arthur is noticing that, and like I mentioned with Bill, there's this sort of rivalry that I've started just for fun, just to build that part of the story myself. I've started to antagonize Bill back at camp, which I don't normally do, but sometimes I do, and I feel like, okay, let's get Arthur and Bill on on bad terms or whatever. Anyway, it's what else was it? Yeah, so the game is starting to change. It becomes more atmospheric and moody and sort of melancholic. You have a sense that something is gonna occur, and I can sort of see that happening. Something emotional towards the end, most likely with Arthur. Now apparently, well, he has tuberculosis apparently, which he started to had this coughing fit. He was brought to the doctor, and I was sort of suspecting that it might be tuberculosis, this being 1899. And sure enough, he has tuberculosis and he's coughing all the time, and that has given him some. He just mentioned that just now, given him a new perspective on things. He and so I want to play into that as well, to maybe act nicer normally, not to be an asshole. I haven't been that before. I tend to have helped people if they want help, but I try to play that part myself as well. That Arthur is changing a little bit, maybe coming to a couple of realizations, and that's reflected in the overall mood of the game now as well. Things definitely are starting to both settle down in a way, like emotionally, but they also step up. Well, I don't know, it feels like the world itself is, maybe it's because you're becoming more familiar with it, maybe they film it in a different way, anyway, I guess, I don't know where I was going with that, but there is definitely a certain change, sorry. Some of these close-ups, man, when you see their eyes kind of twinkle, it doesn't feel weird. In a lot of games that try to look realistic, a lot of animation that tries to be realistic, you have that problem with the uncanny valley, where if something is completely bizarre or absurd and not trying to look like a human, then it's gonna be, whatever. But if it tries to get close to that human spirit and doesn't quite succeed, then there's a something creepy about it. But there's not really much of that. They really managed to capture the soul of everyone in the eyes, especially when they're talking. And man, I'm trying to think of a complaint. I realize I'm mainly just raving about the game. I don't know, sometimes maybe it's a bit dull to have to use your horse, go from place to place, which I saw somebody comment online, and then somebody replied, well, what the fuck were you expecting, to take, the airplane everywhere? Anyway, I mean, you're obviously using your horse, but sometimes it's a lot of riding your horse between places, and it does get a bit tiresome occasionally. I don't know. I'm also astounded, as usual. I tend to be impressed with the length of games and with the amount of stuff there is to do, but I do have to mention that again. There really is a lot to do. Incredible how much information you can pack on those two discs. Although it makes me sound like a 60-year-old, but yeah. It is pretty cool. We still haven't gone down to Blackwater. This is turning out to be a longer game than I thought. I feel like I've been playing for well over 50 hours now. I did read somebody say that they played it for 80 hours. Some person who had played it before and reviewed it. Maybe I haven't played it quite as much as I think, but it must be more than 50. And I'm trying to really do everything also. I'm not really hurrying necessarily. Anyway, it should be interesting to see how it plays out. Alright, I'm gonna eat. Oh man, well that ended in a way that I was perhaps not expecting. At least Arthur's journey did. I was beginning to suspect that my suspicion before about going down to Blackwater may be incorrect, because Arthur, his sickness, his health, well-being seemed to decline rather rapidly. So going down to Blackwater and do a big heist there might not be something his character would be able to do. So, but we still have that map down there, and now we're playing with John, which I was also beginning to suspect that we were gonna keep playing, because I talked about that before. Like, if Arthur dies, which I kind of assumed that he would, who are we gonna play with after? Because that was the case in the first game, and it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that it would be the same here, for practical reasons and storytelling reasons. And we indeed are playing with John, which I was pleased to find out. And he has a new appearance. He's trying to... I've just played for 15 minutes with him. He and Abigail and Jack have gone down to Strawberry, and he's just got a job, and now I don't know how long the game will keep going for. But it follows that same pattern with the first one, where things settle down in the end, a little bit at least, before then John dies, obviously. Now we know that John's gonna live through this game. We know what's gonna happen to him later. The only thing, I mean, we know what happens up until that point where Jack goes down. I think he goes down to Mexico and kills someone who's left. I don't remember exactly who that was, but he kills someone who's responsible, I guess. So that's like the last point of the whole story. Maybe if we get a third game, we get to play with Jack. That would be kind of, or play Jack. Would be kind of fun, I guess. But I'm not sure that's gonna happen. I guess we will play with him indefinitely now in this game, which is kind of shame. I had a few things I wanted to do with Arthur. A couple of things that I hadn't quite wrapped up, not much, but maybe a couple of things. So yeah. Anyway, it's a bitter ending. Definitely, we kind of knew that. It's not. Well, it's a tragedy really at heart. We already kind of knew that it would be, since it's a prequel, but. It is this kind of bombastic story in sort of, I guess, typical Rockstar fashion, but it is much more kind of subdued, kind of slow burn. Also, I was thinking about Blackwater. I was showing you the south of that map. Of course, the northeast of the map of the first game is Blackwater. So technically, beneath Blackwater, the area should be already familiar to us from the first game. So if John, I guess it could make sense if John and Abigail and Jack, they're now in Strawberry, but later they're gonna go down to Blackwater and then maybe settle down in that ranch south of Blackwater. Maybe that's how it ends. Sort of ties that into the first game in a way. Okay, so I've been playing for about an hour, I think, doing ranch work with John. But of course, the death of Arthur on that mountain is sort of looming, is sort of staying with me, and it's hard not to have him in mind when I do everything else. I'm on my way. I'm gonna do a bit of an experiment I talked about before, I don't know how long ago, but how in the first game, when John had died and you started playing as Jack, when you went back to do a couple missions, then the game seemed to make no distinction between who the characters were. So it was almost as if these strangers treated Jack as if he were John, and a couple of years later at that too. So, and I mentioned there were a couple of things that I was a bit sad that I wasn't going to be able to finish with the Arthur character.
So there's one or a couple of things that have popped up on the map now, a couple stranger missions that I started with Arthur, and I thought that I would go up here with John as a bit of an experiment to see what happens if they have improved on that, if it's more realistic here in the second game, which I would expect it to be. I'll frankly be a bit disappointed otherwise. So I'm gonna go way up north, and talking to a camera while I'm riding is much slower. So it takes even longer now, even though it's a long journey to begin with. But yeah, there was especially one thing up north. There's one guy who I went fishing with, which was like the most difficult thing in the whole game, surprisingly, catching this huge pike. Oh, for fuck's sakes! Now we have some commotion going on. I'm gonna have to pause and then deal with that. But I'll keep talking to you. Yeah, we were catching this tyrant pike or whatever, which was incredibly difficult to reel him in. So that was the most frustrating part of the whole game, actually. Other than that, it hasn't been very difficult. I've died on a couple missions. I've died maybe once or twice, but there's not been any intense moments of frustration. But that's not the one that I'm going up to do now. There's one more thing. There was a widow by the name of Charlotte, who had just buried her husband, and Arthur was riding by. Of course, she appeared on the map, so I was going up there to see who the stranger was. So then you just have to imagine that Arthur, he just went there for some other reason, I guess, because he acts as if he just runs into this woman, while me, the player, has gone there to see who it is. Anyway. But yeah, so she mentioned her husband had just died. Arthur taught her to do a few things. This was after he had gotten sick, I think. So his whole attitude towards these things may have changed a bit, which made sense for him to help her with these things then. And then he led her to her home. She said something like, we can meet up later." Basically to that effect, and that's the main thing that I wanted to do. I liked their chemistry. I wanted to see what else they would talk about, which it's a shame now that I can't do that, but maybe it's kind of poetic, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going up there with John to see what happens. Is John gonna let her know that it's not like that was a huge thing or anything, but I liked that little part. So is John gonna let her know that that Arthur is dead, or is it gonna be like in the first game, where it's as if they've met before, as if it's the same character I'm playing with? And again, it's a few years later now, so I'm really curious to see how the game is gonna deal with that now that I'm playing as John. So yeah. I'm just gonna deal with these guys. They're trying to rob me, and I don't think I have a weapon, so I'm just gonna try to ride away, I guess. Anyway. So on my way there, I came across some markings on a tree, and that led me to this legendary moose. I realized he just died from throwing a lasso on it. That's a bit weird. I didn't have any other weapons, so I couldn't do anything else. I have a knife. Can I skin it? Yeah. This is like a new beginning in a way, because I have no money. I have like $17, so I need to get some money. And I have to say, I'm a little bit. I'm not sure if they mentioned that in the beginning, if I missed it, but it's a few years later, so what has happened in these few years in the meantime? I'm not sure about that, actually. So I just killed this beautiful animal just for some profit. Well, that's okay. I've done this a couple times before, picked this pelt up or whatever, and put it on the horse, and then I've had to keep doing a couple things, and then I never ended up the pelt just disappeared. So this time I'm actually gonna sell this. So after a long ride and a spontaneous moose slaughter. I'm here by the house. I'm gonna have. I know I'm making a big deal of this, but I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen. And while I'm doing this, I guess I can talk about Arthur's death a bit more. I'm not sure if I left that unsaid before. If I was, sometimes that happens. I'll start talking about something, then I'm reminded of something. I sort of talk about that, and then I mean to jump back to the main track or whatever, and then I just never do that. But it's certainly not a nice ending. Like with a bow on top, it's not a just ending to Arthur. It's not a fair farewell. I mean, it's a grim ending with no real resolution. Although he seemed to come to terms with a few things, which is nice. There is that thing with the deer. He saw this deer, whatever. Right after he got the news that he was dying, basically, and after that the deer appeared here and there in some cutscenes, and he saw that as he died. So I guess that's a bit of a nice ending, but it's still a pretty brutal way to go, the way he went, and the way, I mean, Micah was there. He was apparently the snitch, because the Pinkertons had magically showed up a few times throughout the game. Molly died because of that. Dutch, they did that really well. Dutch seemed to really have this pretty intense internal battle between, well, should he believe Micah or not? Even if he does, it seemed like he kind of understood that was the case. Is he gonna act on it? What's gonna happen? So there, the last scene on the mountain or on the cliffs, which I think it probably could have ended another way, because right before that you were giving an option to go back for the money or not. I chose not to do that, so maybe if I did, I would have died back at camp instead. But anyway, so it ended on the cliffs for me. Micah was there, Dutch was there, and things just kind of dissolved in a way. Kind of just faded out. They went away. Dutch went his way, and Micah, I think, went his way as well. You would have maybe wanted Dutch to pick up his gun, shoot Micah, and then help Arthur. I mean, you know that Dutch is not going to have a nice ending anyway, ultimately. But part of me would have wanted him to maybe realize some of the things he had done wrong, at least in this prequel. Although, maybe it's more, I don't know, more realistic ending to have it this way, and maybe a better ending as well. But it's certainly a harsh ending for Arthur, and it definitely leaves a hole in the game. Or so yeah, I'm just trying to come to terms with whether or not I like the way they said farewell to Arthur, because he turned out to be such a fleshed out three-dimensional character. And it's interesting how you start relating to people, because with the first game you play as John. When John dies, it's not as intense. The sadness for me is not as strong as when Arthur died. But you still, when the second game was coming out, people were just talking about John. Oh, where's John in the trailer? Where's John? Oh, I think I saw John. Or that's his hat, or whatever. Well, anyway. So all people were wanting to know was if John was going to be in the game. And then he, of course, is. He has a big part of the game. But the more you play with Arthur, the more I, anyway, decided, or whatever, that I preferred him to John. To me, he's more of there's certain depth to Arthur, which I didn't feel there was with John, but maybe I'm forgetting about a few details. But also, it's an older game, so it makes sense for there to be more human aspect to the new game with the facial animation and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of bitter to play with John now again, because even though that's what you made. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be this kind of comforting handing over of the controls to a character we're already familiar with. but it doesn't feel that way for me, and it just feels like I wanted Arthur to keep going for a little longer. But again, I don't know if that's criticism or if that's just a well done ending. Yeah, I think basically the point is that Arthur was a fucking great character that you really came to sympathize with and really love in a way. Yeah. But anyway, so I am going to see what happens now with, I think her name is Charlotte. Okay, so this is probably gonna be rather anticlimactic, but I'm gonna keep what I just talked about in, because I feel like I discussed some other things as well while I was on my way to do that mission. I'm not sure if it's possible, because when I got closer to the logo on the map, the logo disappeared, and I'm not sure if... at first I was thinking that that might have had something to do with the time, the awkward time, and there was this thunder going on. So maybe the time needed to be different, but now it's day, it's nice outside, and her marking on the map is gone. The other one as well, the guy that I caught the pike with, he wanted to do something else with Arthur later on. When I got closer to him, the logo disappeared as well. So I'm not sure why these appear on the map. Now there are another two over here, if you can see the white round circles. And I'm guessing if I get closer to them, they're gonna go away as well. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like that, if you're supposed to be able to finish those missions or not. If not, why do they appear on the map now? I mean, it would make more sense if you couldn't, even though that would leave some strings, well, some things unfinished, which is a bit unsatisfying, but it makes more sense because, we're not Arthur anymore. But if so, then I just wonder why the blips still appear on the map. So I'll have to come back and talk about that. If something happens with that, I'll come back and mention it. But now there's a lot more things to do back on the ranch, so I guess we'll do that. And I'll probably keep playing for a while before I come back again. Well, that was fun. I just met Sadie again, and we sort of... They've given you a few bits of information here and there about what's happened these past few years. That's interesting to know. So Sadie had sent him a telegram, and they met up in Valentine, talked a bit, not about Arthur, which I don't know if they would. I mean, just because we played Arthur doesn't mean that he's the central character through the whole story necessarily. Although Sadie did seem to have a relationship with him. Anyway, but now we're going back. So that was fun to meet her, because she has been maybe my favorite character besides Arthur and maybe Dutch. But now we're gonna go down to Blackwater for the first time in the entire game. I don't know after how many hours, but we are finally going down to Blackwater. So it's gonna be cool to see if it looks familiar or updated, or well, I don't remember exactly everything, but I guess some things would have been introduced between here and 1910 when the first game takes place. So I don't know I think there might have been cars in 1910 in Blackwater, maybe a couple, or I think I do remember that the ground was asphalt, I think. So maybe that hasn't been introduced now. Anyway, so a few of those things that should be cool to see if they are the same. Anyway. And it's over. The main story is finished. I gotta say, I did not expect to finish it today. I thought that it's Wednesday today. I thought that I would maybe finish it by the weekend. But yeah, it's over. I mean, oh, here's their their wedding. John proposed to Abigail not too long ago. Yeah, this was a really great ending. It does complement the first one so well. I mean, the first one being based on or built around the backstory. Without that, without the events we took part of now, there would be no first game. So yeah, to explore that backstory made a lot of sense, and they pulled it off, obviously, really well. Yeah, I think as a story, the first one is more effective, but this one is a wonderful game. I mean, holy crap, what a game! It's I've already mentioned most of the things that I like about the game throughout this video. There's not a whole lot more than I can add, but that ending was quite cool. I did talk about Micah, Dutch on the cliffs with Arthur. Arthur and Micah, they had a fight. Arthur ended up dying because he was obviously very sick, and the fight and the exhaustion, I'm sure, didn't help. And then Micah and Dutch just kind of drifted away, or they went their own ways. Now we sort of had a another go at that in a way, because John had been doing some bounty hunting with Sadie, which I'm glad that she survived. Most people seem to have died in this game. Well, a lot of the people die throughout the game, but I'm glad that she survived, and Charles is here too. And Uncle, which I do have to be completely honest here, Uncle from the first game, I did not realize that he was that character until the ending of this game, which is pretty pathetic, but I just didn't realize that was the same character. But so now we know the backstory of that. Where was I? Yeah, so okay, so you've done some bounty hunting with Sadie, and then she finds out that Micah is in the mountains, which is sort of where the game started, and I've been back there once or twice on my own travels with Arthur. But we went back there now to find Micah, and a really cool shootout sequence led up to, yeah, up here. That's where conveniently enough, that's exactly where the last... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, so now that they're finding Micah here, obviously I'm watching this for the first time now. So this is convenient, because this is what I was about to talk about. So the whole shootout sequence leads up to this area right here, where you confront Micah, because apparently he was the traitor before. So it's satisfying to see him killed, which, you know, surprise, surprise, Dutch kills him, because Dutch comes out of the cabin, and then I thought that Sadie was gonna die, but Dutch shot Micah instead. So before, I think earlier today, or maybe yesterday, I talked about how it would have been satisfying to see Dutch kill Micah on the cliffs before Arthur died, but we didn't get that. They just kind of it just dissolved. Well, now we got that ending, which I think was good. I think I wanted that. Dutch actually did shoot Micah, which I gotta say, it surprised me a bit. And then Dutch went away, and obviously John and Dutch, they're gonna meet again. I'm not sure exactly when this takes place. I mean, it starts in 1899, and then a few years pass. I don't think they mentioned what year it is, but I'm guessing. I mean, Jack is 12 here. I'm not sure how old he was in 1899. I'm guessing maybe 8 years old. So let's say this is 1903, maybe 1904. So about 6 years later, and now Charles goes away, which he talked about. Yeah. So about 6 years later, we all know what happens, and so, and there's a part where, I mean, because the epilogue here, they called it the epilogue when you get to play as John again. it's pretty long, but it needs to be long, I think, to really wrap everything up nicely, not to rush things. They call that the epilogue, which is a really nice bridge between the first game. Well, sorry, between the second game and the first game, because he goes to, after he's been at this whatever the ranch was called, he did some work there. He had this disguise, short hair and a funny hat, and a beard, but he didn't really do a very good job in hiding, I guess. But after that, he went down to Beecher's Hope, to Blackwater. He bought the land for Beecher's Hope. He built the house, and so you obviously are familiar with that area, the ranch, from the first game. And so actually seeing that whole thing come together, and then Abigail and Jack comes back because she had left him a few months earlier. And then there's a few errands on the farm where he just works around the farm or the ranch. I think I did that for maybe 20 minutes probably. So he's bought this place, he's made a good life for himself, but we know a few years later it's not gonna end very well. So even though this is a very nice ending, it's incredibly bittersweet knowing what's gonna happen in just a few years. That this peaceful, quiet time of theirs, of actually finding each other and finding a nice place to live, is not going to last very long. But maybe what matters is that they and what matters for this ending is that this is where they are now. Right now they're happy, So I think it's not a sad ending. It's quite nice. What a story these two games. What a story they tell. All these characters. All the journeys you go through with them. Of course, you get emotional about these things. It's just a game, but it's incredibly effective. It's incredibly real, and I really enjoyed it. It's sad that it's over. I thought that it was going to last for a bit longer, but it's one of those games that I haven't been able to stop playing. So less than 2 weeks after it came out, I am finished with the game, which is. Anyway, one thing that I will mention, I did make sure when we switched over to John, the next time I saved, I did so in a new slot. So if I want to go back and do some more things with Arthur, then I can, which feels kind of nice. This is half joking, but some nostalgia, I guess. Go back and play as Arthur again. So I'm gonna do that actually, just for fun, just as a bit of a rerun or whatever. Do some things that I didn't end up doing, I guess, with him. Like that mission up north that I was talking about, which just was a disaster because I built that up and then nothing came of it. Yeah, but I think that's it for this video, unless I come up with, or unless I think of something else that I want to mention. That's it for this video. If anybody watched the whole thing, it was fun to take you through it, or just to take myself through it and do so to a camera. Yeah, man, I said I used the word bittersweet before. It is. The entire idea of playing a game like this, the way it gets to you, really emotionally really gets to you. It is a bittersweet thing because you really want to be in this world because it's more exciting than your own life, let's be honest. So this role playing is very effective, but I guess if you're, the more impressionable you are, the more it's gonna be like this. But yeah, you've lived these people's lives for a while now, and with such a realistic simulation, it's all the more effective. So not getting to be them anymore is it's sad, It gets you choked up a little bit. And I think I am a little bit impressionable with these things. But it's not an experience that I look back on anything more than with a fond memory. Obviously, it's all very nice, but anyway, it's pretty sad. Anyway, that's this video. I don't think I have anything more to say. I might as well finish the video by mentioning that this year I have barely played gaming. I've barely done any gaming at all. This is like the main thing that I've done in terms of gaming. I have a list here, a document with everything that I watch, everything that I read, which is a pathetically short list. I always want to try to read more, but I can't seem to find that peace of mind that I need to do that, or that I'd like to have to get a book and read. But films and TV, and then also games, I write down here. And the games that I've played this year, early January, BioShock Uncompleted. February, Little Nightmares, Secret of the Maw, and then The Witcher 3 Uncompleted, which the fact that I had never finished The Witcher 3 might be kind of odd, but that's for a different video, I guess. But that was back in February. I think I've already talked about it. Anyway, and then Life is Strange Before the Storm bonus episode Farewell. And then I played a bit of the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, but just a few hours. Then I played Firewatch in April. In June I played Heavy Rain, but I didn't finish it because I didn't really like it. Oh, here's Pearson. And then in June I also played The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, which is a prequel to the current Life is Strange 2. Which episode 2 is about to come out in maybe just a few weeks. That's all I've been playing. That's everything this whole year. I've not been playing anything else at all. That's quite a few titles, but most of them is only a few hours each. And I think the amount of hours I put into this game is just as much as all these together, or close anyway. So this is obviously the strongest gaming experience I've had this year. I enjoyed Firewatch. I like Life is Strange very much. Little Nightmares, Secret of the Maw was good. And of course Witcher 3 is incredible, but it's difficult for me to get into a fantasy world. So this is clearly the best gaming experience that I had this year so far. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to top it. We're in November now, so. But yeah, I think there's only a few games that come out that I want to play. They're pretty few and far in between, whatever the expression is. So it is kind of sad that the one that I've been looking forward to so much is now over. Although I do have some more things that I can do, I guess. And the next one, I don't even know when the next game is. Last of Us Part 2 probably is going to take another year. Maybe a bit less, maybe about a year, I don't know. And until then, I don't even know. There's not a lot that I really am that excited about. Man, all the people you run into in this game. There's such a human aspect to it too. It's tragic, but there's one part where Hosea he's giving you Strauss. Sorry, he's giving you debts to collect, and one of them is this man who he gets the money from him, and then the wife and the son, they can't really make a living or whatever. So I guess they get kicked out. They become kind of destitute. What's the word? So, and then a bit later, Arthur finds her working as a prostitute up in Annabelle. No, what was the name? Anyway, he finds her, and then he sees her again, and then after that he decides to go back, and he helps her out. So just a small side story like that where Hosea, he asks you to collect debts from probably 10 people or maybe more throughout the game, and then one of them turns out to be this rather profound, sad story, rather grim story, but it Arthur makes up for it, I guess. And now Sadie leaves as well. Okay, so I was wondering about that. In the ending of this game, Sadie and Charles are there, but obviously in the first one, they're not there. So, but now we actually saw them leave. So if I keep playing as John, I guess it's just gonna be the four of us, you know, John, Abigail, Jack, and Uncle. And then that leads right into the first game. So they really covered the whole thing. It's yeah, I'm just throwing out superlatives here, but I just can't seem to do anything but praise this game at the moment. Alright, sorry, I said this several minutes ago, but that's it. Unless I think of anything else. Incredibly long video, but it kind of had to be. It's such a big game. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about each and every part to a larger extent, but anyway, we have to leave it at that, I think. So thank you so much for watching, and if I end up doing another one of these eventually, I don't know for which game it would be, but I may do that if people want to see it, but I'm not sure exactly what the audience is for this. But if you did watch it, then I appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts down below about the game. Bye bye.